It's time to talk about concert etiquette. I'm not the first person to bring this up, and Lord knows I won't be the last if things keep going the way they're going, but I'm getting really tired of opening Twitter to see yet another story of an artist being disrespected at their own show, getting injured by their own fans, or of people being injured because other people have forgotten how to act like human beings. This is just a quick video while I edit a much longer video to go up at the end of this week, but it's honestly something I'm getting increasingly frustrated with and passionate about, so buckle in. It's also only half scripted, so this might go off the rails. You've almost definitely seen those news stories of people throwing things at musicians, being disrespectful to support acts, and just generally making crowds unpleasant environments to be in at concerts. BB Rexa had to get stitches because somebody lobbed his phone at her face, Harry Styles caught a rose stem in the eye, Kelsey Ballerina was hit with a bracelet, the list goes on. Ava Max was attacked on stage by a fan, smacked across the face so hard it scratched her eye. But the most recent controversy has been surrounding the Death Grips tour. If you want a more detailed breakdown of what's been happening, Dev Lemons did a great video on it, I've linked it below, but essentially, people have entirely forgotten what concert etiquette is supposed to look like. Now, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but what I did grow up with was birthdays. Both of my parents prioritized experiences over, like useless presents that I was going to play with once and then never play with again. So, since I was very young, I've been getting concert tickets for my birthdays and Christmases. We didn't have a lot of money, but what money we had, that was the kind of thing my parents would try and spend it on. So I have grown up since year 6. So how old is that? Fuck, how old was I in year 6? 10? Since 10 years old, going to see concerts. I have been to a lot in my life. My first ever concert was the Simon and Garfunkel reunion tour when I was 10 years old. Nobody else my age gave a shit. And this was pre the meme as well. This was pre Hello Darkness, my old friend. I still am a big old Simon and Garfunkel fan. So I've grown up from a very young age with an innate understanding of what concert etiquette is supposed to look like. It's also very common knowledge within a lot of concert going spheres that pop concerts are almost always the scariest crowds to be in, and moshing in death metal concerts is almost always the safest place to be in, because people that go to death metal concerts and metal concerts in general are the kinds of people who are very, very, very aware of moshing etiquette. So if you go down in the pit, they will spread out, make a hole, and make sure you're safe. This is something that comes up a lot. Whereas in pop concerts, a lot of people have never been to a concert before, or if they have, it's to scream and shout and get the attention of the person on stage. So they're a lot less aware of the safest things to do in a crowd environment. This is how you end up with, bad crowding and people getting injured and things like that. Obviously, bad rock concerts have happened. The Pearl Jam one is obviously a very famous example, absolutely horrendous. Woodstock 99, terrifying. For the most part, there is a level of understanding that comes with having gone to more than one concert, particularly concerts that aren't necessarily pop artists. And as somebody who was raised going to concerts, that level of etiquette is just something that is impressed upon you. I don't think anybody even sat me down and was like, these are the rules. You just figure it out once you've been to 2. Now, in case you're not sure what those rules are, the rules basically go like this. When an artist is on stage, pay attention to the artist. This seems like it's the bare fucking minimum, and yet the amount of TikToks going viral over the last couple of months of people playing fucking Subway Surfer during the support act, as if that's a really funny bit. It's not. You're fucking obnoxious. I've been to concerts before where I didn't like the support act. I went to see Florence and the Machine earlier this year, which I'll talk about in a minute. But her support act was someone that was he was great. He was very, 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 very talented. I'll put him on the screen. You should go, if you like that kind of music, go and listen to him. He's great. It just isn't for me. It wasn't my vibe. I didn't personally like it. What I didn't do was sit in that crowd doing my Duolingo or Subway surfing or, filming fucking TikTok videos. I sat down and I listened, because that's the respectful thing to do. And also, to disrespect a support act, you're also disrespecting the person you're there to see, because presumably the person you're there to see has picked that person as their support act because they liked them. Not because, they just pulled a name out of a hat. You're disrespecting your artist's taste in music or people. Next piece of information, if somebody goes down in the pit, make a hole. If somebody goes down while you're moshing, give them space. People will die from being trampled on. People will be seriously injured from being trampled on. I know people who've had broken legs from being rammed against the rails. Don't take that out of context. It can be very dangerous to be crowding like that. And the best thing that you can do as a member of a crowd like that is learn crowd safety, especially in pop artist crowds. The most dangerous crowds I have been in have been for the most innocuous people you could imagine. I went to see Ed Sheeran in 2015 at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. I had seated tickets, so I was safe, but I could see that crowd. That shit was terrifying. They were smushed in so much like sardines, you probably could have gone completely limp and stayed totally upright. And I've been to My Chemical Romance's reunion tour last year, and it was spaced out and respectful the whole time. Next piece of advice: don't throw things at the artists. You can throw things at the stage, not at the artist. Like if you want the artist to receive a gift from you, that kind of thing. It is fairly common concert practice to toss things towards the stage. It's a very common anecdote that people used to have bras tossed at them, whatever. Do not throw them at the artist. If you hit the artist, it could injure them, it could stop the show, it could make them angry. Do not do it. Throw it towards the stage where it can be picked up by the artist. A lot of artists are delighted by finding things on the stage or seeing something get tossed near their feet. You know, like, don't throw it at a human person. My God. Next piece of etiquette, maybe, just for the hell of it, applaud and get involved when they ask you to. Because, oh my God. So, like I said, I've been to a lot of concerts in my life. I've been to see hip-hop artists. I went to see Lorde right before she got really, really big, which was wild. I've been to music festivals. I went to Blues Fest. I've been to see Alt J, The National. I've seen Kate Miller-Heidke like 4 times, Go Off Queen. I've seen local gigs. I've seen massive, huge stadium tours. The best gig that I've ever been to was Ballpark Music in like 2014, 2015 at the Toowoomba Food and Wine Festival, because it was just a really nice vibe. We were surrounded by food and wine trailers. Everything was nice. The band was fantastic. Could not recommend them enough. And the people in the mosh pit were like pleasantly drunk on wine, and also people just holding wine glasses in the pit like above their heads so it wasn't spilling. Incredible. Like the vibe is electric. Also at some point someone tried to climb up on stage and strip naked, and it made the lead singer like double over laughing. It was fantastic. Just really great vibes all around. The second best concert I've ever been to, probably Florence and the Machine earlier this year. And I've been to see Florence twice. I saw her years and years and years ago before I left Australia in Brisbane at River Stage. River Stage is one of the best venues that exists, and I live by that. And she was phenomenal then. But I think she is the only artist I've seen post-COVID who's managed to take control of the crowd in a way that stops the crowd from doing the post-COVID stuff. Let me explain. So I've been to see, in the last year, My Chemical Romance, Blackpink, Florence and the Machine, and Freya Ridings, which I saw a couple weeks ago. My Chemical Romance, the vibes are very, very different because a lot of it was like pre-COVID crowds, like as in pre-COVID interest, people who'd been to concerts beforehand, and even the people who hadn't were so excited because they never thought they'd get to see My Chemical Romance performing again. So it was a very respectful and incredibly enthusiastic environment to be in. Were there some outliers and some bad people? Yes, there are in every single crowd, but for the most part, it felt like the pre-COVID experience. And that was my first concert post-COVID, so I was like, hell yeah, concerts are great. Everything's normal. I was so wrong. I then went to Blackpink last year in like December. They were great. Loved them. The crowd, however, so we got standing tickets. We were standing towards the back of the O2. I cannot tell you how many times members of Blackpink pleaded with the crowd to put their phones down, like just for a song or two. Like I'm not kidding. They pleaded with the crowd like 3 or 4 times throughout the concert to be like, please put your phones down. We can't see your faces. Like all we can see is like phones. Like we want to engage with you. Nothing.
I remember you guys said no phones and have fun, but all I see are your phones and no faces. What's going on? Come on, guys.
Every single person in that concert had their fucking phone directly pointed at them the entire time. I think I pulled my phone out twice to film stuff. Because I do like to have videos at concerts of like, you know, to remember the experience by. But if you're just filming the entire concert and like watching the concert down the lens of your phone, that's not experiencing a concert. Why are you here? To get points on TikTok? Fuck off. And like, I get it. There's much more of a culture of that within K-pop of like filming your bias, like posting videos of your bias online, you know, obsessing over like those videos over and over and over again once you've left the concert. I do get that to an extent, but don't film every song. I could barely, like literally, when I tell you it was a sea of phones from the back, exhausting. It must have been awful for them on stage trying to connect with an audience that they can't make eye contact with. On top of that, there's a couple of people next to me who were chain vaping the entire concert. Now I know that like we haven't quite gotten onto the train yet of like shaming people for vaping indoors because it's not illegal yet, but I'm asthmatic. Oh, it's very well timed. Sorry, I filmed another video before this and my voice is fucking dog shit. I've been talking for like an hour and a half. I'm asthmatic, so inhaling air that is not oxygen into my lungs is very bad for me. And even for non-asthmatic people, not good. Like, we're already seeing studies on the effects of, like, secondhand vaping, and it's bad. Largely because, like, when you're walking through a cloud of vape, you don't always instinctively hold your breath like you do when you walk through a cloud of cigarette smoke, because it smells so nice. So you don't necessarily always register that the thing that you're inhaling into your lungs isn't good for you. This couple was... when I say chain vaping, I mean we were in a cloud of it, and we tried to move, and then they moved, and at one point, they'd moved directly in front of me, so that every time they exhaled, it was going directly down my lungs. I had to leave, go to the bathroom, drink a bunch of water, wash my face, inhale my inhaler, and then come back. Like, that's how bad it was. And it wasn't just them, but they were just the ones that were the closest to us and were doing it the most obnoxiously. Like, stop vaping indoors. If you can't put your vape down for, like, 3 hours to enjoy a concert, you actually need help. Like, I'm genuinely concerned about you. And I say this as somebody who has friends who chain vape and who can't stop doing it. Please, please, please look at your consumption of the vape and what you are doing. Think about it. It's not good for you. I'm deadly serious. I would like my friends to maintain living for the next, 30 years at least, please. Thank you. This concert, this was in like November, December of 2022. And then I saw Florence and the Machine in like January, February of 2023. I was supposed to see her in December of 2022, but she broke her foot running through the crowd because she's a fucking legend. Florence gets up, she starts performing, she's amazing. She's obviously very atmospheric. She's got a stage presence that's like bonkers. She's like an old ethereal god. It's incredible. She's a member of the Fae. She gets up and she sings like 2 or 3 big songs. And then, after like the third, maybe fourth song, I think the third, she, between songs, stops, takes stock of the audience, and then goes, I would like you all to please put your phones away and just enjoy the experience of being at this concert, the experience of being together with strangers and experiencing the same collective emotion all at once. And some people start putting their phones away. I put my phone away immediately. I'm like, Florence has asked me to do something. Step on me. I'm so sorry, Florence. That's so disrespectful. I love you, Queen. I respect you as a writer and artist so much. But also, you're very pretty. Some people are more hesitant. They're still holding their phones up. They're still trying to record stuff. And bearing in mind, like, the whole concert, basically, everybody's had their phones out. Not everybody, but most people. Florence gets a little more insistent. She's like, starts just being like, put your phones down. She's walking up and down the stage. Put your phones down. People start doing it more and more and more. And then she stands right in the middle of the stage, puts the mic up to her mouth and goes, if you look to your left, look to your right, and you see somebody who is still got their phone out and is recording, I'd just like you to look at that person nicely in the face and say, put your fucking phone away. She's a fucking legend. And most people did. In this crowd, the level of control that she had over the affect of the room, over the audience, most people's phones went down. In fact, I think for the next song, everybody's phones were down. A couple of phones popped up for the rest of the concert every now and then, but nowhere near the amount that had been at the Blackpink concert that I had seen previously. Like, so much more respect for the moment that we were supposed to be in that affect of that room absorbing the audience. And sorry, I'm going to explain. So affect is something that I covered in my writing degree, in my spoken word poetry module, because yeah, I'm that bitch. I have some spoken word poetry on this account in old videos that I submitted for the Birmingham Uni Slam when I was doing that. So like, you can find them, they're there. One of the most important things that I have ever learned about performing in any capacity, whether that be drama, spoken word, comedy, music, whatever it was in this degree, in this module. It's something that my lecturer did his PhD in. He's a legend. We love him. Love you, Jack. Which is affect. The affect of a room, which is basically, if we're going to drag it back down to the common speak, vibes. Your vibe check in the room, right? I have performed poems like a night apart from each other, and on the first night had them kill. My well-placed fuck poem that's on this channel, I have performed that in a room and absolutely killed the room. Had people in stitches laughing, had people like come up to me afterwards to tell me how great it was. It makes you feel like a god. And the very next night, I performed the same poem because I was like, well, this killed at the last venue. Performed the very same poem with a different crowd in a different venue, dead on arrival. Nothing. That is emblematic of the affect of a room. The vibes of that room were different. The crowd was different. The room was different. The space we were in felt different. And it meant that the audience didn't engage with the poem in the same way as the previous audience had, where the affect of the room was completely electric and everybody was involved and invested and the space was filled with this like vibe, you know? And the same thing happens with like Florence and Freya writings, I think, are similar-ish performance, right? They've both got incredibly powerful voices. They've both got this like long red-haired ethereal quality to them. I'd like both of them to step on me respectfully. But Florence's concert, the affect of the room was electric. People were so invested in that concert. They were so invested in the vibes of the room. They were so enthralled that they all put their phones down and just gave everything to the concert. Freya Ridings is disappointing to say the least. Not because of Freya. Freya was incredible, as were both of her support acts. Tours especially, who you might have seen going viral with their like harmonies of their song Miracle. They are great. We love them. I'm gonna shout them out now.
They say it's a work of art every time I fall apart, but it can get so lonely. So I'll open every scar, stories written in the dark, hoping you feel the same.
I don't think I told them that I was going to shout them out, but shout out, boys. If you ever want to come on my channel and hang out, like, let's do it. But Tours were like struggling. They were the second support act to go on, and they were struggling to get the crowd involved. The crowd was quiet, and we were at the Hammersmith Apollo, the Eventim Apollo, so like a lot of it is seated. It's like more of a sort of comedy venue, so it's a lot of seated, especially where I was at the back. We had seats. We were near the men's loos, which is going to be very important in a minute. But like multiple times throughout their set, they were like trying to get people on their feet, trying to get people dancing, trying to get people involved in the songs, trying to get people to commit, trying to build up the affect of the room so that the audience was getting involved. I think partly because of the fact that the theatre feels more like a theatre than like a concert venue, it did put a bit of a barrier up between people actually connecting with it like a concert and people sort of feeling like, well, I'm sitting in a theatre seat, so I should behave like I'm at the theatre and be respectful. But that doesn't even hold a candle to the level of disrespect that people showed when Freya was on stage. Because for most of both of the support acts, you and Jay Phillips as well, he was great. For most of the support acts, I was like, well, the crowd has been kind of disrespectful. People are talking through it. People are on their phones. People aren't like getting up and cheering and like singing along and getting involved. But like, that's because they're not here for these people. They're here for Freya. So when Freya's gone, they'll behave better. I was so naive. Obviously, that didn't happen. I have never been in a crowd that felt so innately disrespectful to the person we'd all paid to see. Like, I cannot fathom. Okay, when I tell you that at least one, usually much more, but at least one person got up during every single one of Freya's songs to use the bathroom, I am not being hyperbolic. Not between songs when people are applauding. During songs, during the chorus of songs, during quiet moments when, like, we're supposed to be absorbing this beautiful, sad ballad, getting up to piss. And like, I get it. Sometimes you're just desperate to go. I would genuinely rather let piss run down my leg than disrespect an artist by getting up during a song. This does not go for those people who are in a Death Grips mosh pit and are pissing themselves. Those people, again, need to get help. If you're in the mosh pit and you're so desperate to pee that you're actually going to piss yourself, take yourself outside. But wait between songs to do it, because otherwise that is incredibly disrespectful. I'm not kidding. I went with my friend Haley. I don't think, got a single video of any song that didn't have somebody's head walk past during it. It was insane. Also, people were just talking the whole way through the concert. There was a moment where Freya's on stage on her own, like her band has left. She's like taking it down for a minute. She's like really bringing the audience in. And I've been to concerts that have done this before. It's usually a fantastic moment. And she's really bringing the audience in and she's singing this beautiful, sad ballad. It's wonderful. And there's this moment after she finishes a line where there's like a full beat of utter silence before the next verse starts. Except it wasn't utter silence, because in that silence, you could just hear the rumble of crowd talk. I have never in my life talked through a song, let alone a song as emotional and sad as that one was supposed to be. Genuinely, why are you here? Like, I've always hated the logic that people, like, when they bring their phones into the cinemas of like, oh yeah, but I paid for a ticket so I can watch the movie how I want to watch the movie. Yeah, you didn't pay for everybody else's tickets though, dipshit. And we're not all here to see what's on your phone or listen to your conversation. We're all here to watch the movie and we paid just as much as you did, so shut the fuck up.
He's been causing havoc in the household.
But I didn't think that logic was ever going to extend to concerts, because you pay so much more for concerts, you travel so much further, and it's so much more of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see that particular artist in that particular setting. Like, you're never going to get that exact concert ever again. You are going to get that exact experience watching a movie again, because the movie is the same, unless you're watching a director's cut. Like, a concert is so unique. Even if they're performing exactly the same set at every single venue is different, every crowd is different, every night is different. Concerts are an incredible privilege and luxury that not everybody gets to have. So to go to one and then be on your phone the whole time, be talking through songs, be getting up to piss during every goddamn song, I cannot fathom the level of disrespect that you have to operate with in your day-to-day life that you are bringing to a concert like that. Like, and I think I've said this before, although I don't know if it was in one of these videos. COVID really has ruined us, just societally, because those societal contracts that we did have before COVID, I think not enough people are aware of them anymore. And I think not enough people are learning them. People that are coming out in their early 20s to exist in society haven't learned how to conduct themselves in society. Because while they were supposed to be learning all of that stuff, COVID was happening. And like, that sucks, but also learn the societal contracts. Do not disrespect the people around you. Stop blasting loud TikToks in a train carriage. I'll kill you with my bare hands. We should all be the main character of our own story. I firmly believe that in my heart of hearts. All of us should be the main character of our own story. You shouldn't let yourself get sidelined in your own life. However, what happened during COVID was that people came out the other side of it thinking that they were the main character of the story. Of everybody's story. You're the main character of every place you walk into. And that is just fundamentally not true. You are in locations where every single other person there is also the main character of their story. You do not get to behave that way as if you are the main character of everybody else's story. Especially not when you're at a concert to see somebody. Because for those 3 hours, that person is the main character of everybody's story in that room. Or alternatively, you're still the main character of that story, but because you're busy having a come to Jesus moment with that concert, with that musician, with that artist, I cannot stress enough how upsetting and disrespectful, like, being in that audience was, and feeling like embarrassed to be in that audience. And I'm sure that people that have been going to these Death Grip concerts where they're behaving really disrespectfully, I'm sure that the people that do know the concert etiquette, that do want to be there because they love the band and they want to see them, and it's not always a thing that people are able to fork out the money for and the time for. It's an expense. It's an emotional thing. It's a lot of spoons to use. Like, it took me a lot of spoons, and I'm getting sicker by the day. I'm like, my undiagnosed fibromyalgia, I think maybe, is like causing all of my muscles to hurt all the time. So even sitting down for that length of time hurt me. But I did that because I wanted to be there. I wanted to see Freya, and she was incredible. It was slightly ruined by the crowd of people I was in, which sucks. And I really hope that she didn't feel that. I really hope that she felt the energy of the crowd at the front, and that was all that mattered. But like, people were walking out during her final songs, during her encores, which are like the biggest singles. People were leaving, and I kind of get that sometimes. Like, you have to go, you have to be somewhere, you want to beat the crowd out of the venue, whatever else. But like, during the song, I had to get out of my seat and stand in the stairwell because we were on the end of the aisle, and all the people in our aisle wanted to leave early. So I was forced to do something that I think is very disrespectful because the people in my aisle were trying to disrespectfully leave early. During Lost Without You, Freya's biggest song, after she just told us about what an emotional thing that song was for her, about like losing a very important person to herself, and that's why she wrote the song, and then started singing the song and trying to get everybody like invested in that moment and to feel connected to that moment, and you're gonna get up and make other people get up so you can leave? I'm furious, dude. I'm furious at the way people's attitudes have shifted. And I say this as somebody who's also spent like 10 years of her life working in customer service. Like, people keep saying, oh, well, you know, people have always been bad. Yeah, people have always been bad. I agree. As somebody who's worked in customer service since I was 13, people have always been bad. Since COVID, people are worse. People are so much worse. I made it 7 years in customer service and didn't once quit. I mean, I've quit jobs. I've like gone to uni. I've done other things, but like there are aspects of customer service that I enjoyed. I spent 2 years working at Waterstones and wanted to kill myself. There wasn't a single, most of the time before COVID, you'd have like a bad incident a week that would be enough to make you go, maybe I don't want to work in customer service. Like, maybe one a week. Like, you'd have, you know, some duds a day, but like in terms of career altering, like depressing moments or upsetting moments, you'd have maybe one a week, usually less. Post-COVID, I was getting 3 a day. We had a man come up to the counter and have a go at us and tell us to stop laughing on shift because some people are trying to work. And I was like, hey guy, if you want to work, go do that at home or in the library. This is a public cafe. So I politely was like, no, I'm not going to tell anybody to stop laughing. We're not going to stop laughing. And he emailed head office at Waterstones to complain about us. And then in that complaint said, oh, I'm sure that they're doing their jobs. However, and it's like, if you start your complaint with I'm sure they're doing their jobs, you don't have a leg to stand on, buddy. That's not a legitimate complaint. Also, fuck off. And that's not an isolated incident. First of all, that man came in all the time. He was awful to everybody constantly. But also, regardless of that, he was not the only one. That's just one of the funnier versions of things that happened. Much, much worse and more disrespectful and upsetting things happened in the 2 years that I worked there. And I loved the people I worked with. I still love the people I worked with. Some of them are probably watching this video. I love you and I miss you a lot. But I had to get out of customer service. I had to get out of that job because the 2 years I spent in it after COVID were actively killing me. Like, my mental health plummeted. And my mental health's always been bad, but like, I didn't realize how bad it had plummeted until I got my new job where I'm not doing customer service, and everything plateaued. I didn't realize how much it was affecting my mental health, which was in turn making my physical health worse. Hence, the fibromyalgia that I now have, which is triggered by stress. I really struggle to put into words how disheartening it is to see the lack of empathy and the like callousness and the coldness of individuals and communities post-COVID. It's really upsetting. And I know that this isn't like the biggest issue in the world right now. I know that there's a lot of other stuff going on. I can't do anything about a lot of that other stuff, which is another thing that's incredibly disheartening, is that like most of us are poor enough and not influential enough that we can't really do anything about the stuff that is going on in the world except for go to protests, which I will link down below. I'll link it down below what some protests are. I'll try and find one that's got like worldwide ones, because obviously like I'm local to the UK, but like I'll try and find one that has like American ones and Australian ones and whatever else, you know. We can't all make a difference. All we can do is try. And it's so amazing that like the one good thing that has come out of this awful tragedy is that we are seeing people stand up. We are seeing people like rally together as a community. But it's devastating that it got to that point in the first place. And that comes from a callous disregard for other human lives. To be clear, I am condemning Israel. I am not condemning Jewish people. I am condemning Hamas also, because you now have to clarify that every single time you say anything about it. Like, yes, I condemn Hamas. I also vehemently condemn Israel for everything that they are doing. This does not mean I'm condemning Jewish people. It is not in alignment with the Jewish faith to commit a genocide. Funnily enough, it goes directly against most of the Jewish experience throughout history. Wild that. I wasn't going to bring it up because I was just going to keep this video, you know, like kind of like a lighthearted rant about something that annoys me, but like obviously it's like at this point you can't not address it. And I don't want to not address it and leave the elephant in the room, but I also don't want to be the authority on it. I'm not saying that you should listen to me. Go and do your own research, find your own sources. I am not the main character of your story or of any story except mine. Do your own research. Listen to actual Palestinian people, listen to actual Jewish people. Be compassionate, be empathetic. Try your best to not inconvenience everybody around you just because you think you are the main character of the story. There is no the story. There is only every individual story. And making other people's days worse to make your day better just makes you a bad person, and it makes it so that eventually no one will want to be around you. This took a darker and more upsetting turn than I thought it was going to towards the end. I was mainly getting on here to rant about how I love Freya writings and I wish that the crowd had been more respectful. Like I said at the beginning, this is just to go out between a longer video that's going to come out hopefully at the end of the week, which I will hopefully make available for my patrons a day early, maybe, depending on how quick I am at the editing process, because it's going to take a few days. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope that things aren't too bad where you are. I hope that you and your family are safe and healthy. I hope that the next time you go to a concert, people aren't playing Subway Surfer in the pit directly next to you. And if they are, elbows exist. I'm not condoning violence. Or maybe I am, who knows. Annyeong!